Welcome to the Red Flags podcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, before we dive into the story, I kindly ask you to like this video and make sure you're subscribed to my blog. That way, you help keep me motivated, and your activity also helps other people discover my podcast. I'll do my best to retell it in detail. Moving to Philadelphia was a compromise like most important decisions in our marriage. Silicon Valley was draining us dry. 2-hour commutes, astronomical rent, and a culture of perpetual hustle that even whiskey couldn't save us from anymore. Emily and I decided that the East Coast would give us a chance at a calmer life. More spacious housing for our daughter Zoe, and maybe the opportunity to finally breathe. I'm Michael Chen, a 33-year-old programmer and former technical director of a startup that became yet another victim of political turbulence after the election. My wife Emily is a talented graphic designer whose skills easily transformed into remote work for clients from different states. Our 5-year-old daughter Zoe was thrilled with our new home with a real yard instead of a 13th-floor balcony where even tomatoes refused to grow. Before the events I'm about to describe, we could have been called a typical modern millennial. Family, a bit of mortgage debt, a vinyl collection I'm prouder of than I should be, and a habit of talking about feelings that expensive therapists taught us. Our move to a Victorian house with a bay window and creaky floorboards in a quiet Philadelphia neighborhood seemed like the beginning of a new, more authentic life. I've always been the type to hedge my bets. When most of my colleagues were investing, bonuses in their company's stocks and real estate in the valley, I was quietly investing in cryptocurrency. Bitcoin was not a speculative venture for me, but a hedge against the unpredictability of the corporate world. Part of my earnings each month went to buying crypto assets, which were stored on cold wallets, physical devices the size of a flash drive protected by complex passwords. Emily knew about this. We were always open about finances. She was skeptical about my digital gold, but she recognized my autonomy in this matter, especially after these investments allowed us to make a decent down payment on our Philadelphia house. Your internet coins turned out to be not so useless after all, she joked then, after signing the documents for the house. In Philadelphia, Emily quickly found her social circle: artists, designers, copywriters. People in creative professions were drawn to her like moths to a flame. Among her new friends was Jessica, a web designer with bright tattoos and a relationship history worthy of its own series. A few months after our move, Jessica announced her engagement to Ryan, a financial analyst with a suspiciously perfect smile and the friendliness of a golden retriever. I met Ryan at a barbecue we hosted in the backyard of our new home. He was one of those guys who get along incredibly well with everyone. From 5-year-old Zoe to our 70-year-old neighbor, a Vietnam veteran whom we invited out of politeness. Ryan knew something about everything and could listen in a way that made you feel like the most interesting person on the planet. "You invest in crypto? Seriously?" he asked when we were alone by the grill. "Aren't you afraid of regulatory risks?" We dove into a conversation about the future of digital assets, regulation, and technologies. By the end of the evening, I felt I had found a kindred spirit, someone who spoke my language in a city where I still felt like an outsider. Little did I know that this very person would become the harbinger of my personal apocalypse. It all started with Jessica's bachelorette party. Emily was thrilled to be invited to be part of the last crazy night of freedom, as Jessica called it. It's going to be a classic bachelorette party without any of those cliched tiaras and pink boas, Emily explained as she was getting ready. Jess rented a limo, we're going to dinner at some trendy restaurant, and then, I think, to a club. I remember how Emily looked that evening, a black dress she called her battle dress, red lipstick she only wore for special occasions, hair gathered in a perfect messy bun that actually took 40 minutes of work and half a bottle of hairspray. She was stunning, and it registered as a dull ache somewhere under my ribs, a mix of pride and fear that I now understand was a premonition. "Don't wait up for me," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "And don't worry if I come back late, I can call an Uber." I spent the evening with Zoe. We built a pillow fort in the living room, watched Moana for the 3rd time that month, and fell asleep among scattered stuffed animals and coloring books I woke up at 3 in the morning with a stiff neck and a missing wife. The message on my phone read, "We continued the party at Jess's place. I'll stay with her so I don't wake you guys up. Love you both." 3. I felt a momentary irritation, an unusual decision for our marriage, but chalked it up to friend solidarity and well-deserved fun after months of adapting to a new city. Emily returned the next day in the afternoon with a slight hangover and stories about the cocktails they tried, the restaurant with avant-garde cuisine, and philosophical conversations that only happen after midnight. There was not a word about the strip club. 2 weeks after the bachelorette party, Ryan called me and suggested we meet for a beer. "Without the girls," he specified. "Just guys." We met at a small Irish pub near downtown. Ryan looked tense, which was unusual for his perpetually relaxed nature. "I don't know how to start this conversation," he said after his second beer. "But I think you should know. I like you, Mike, and I feel you deserve the truth." I felt my stomach tighten, that physical premonition of disaster that's impossible to ignore. At Jess's bachelorette party, they went to a strip club called the Platinum Unicorn. Know it? Jess said it was her idea, something non-standard to have a laugh, but she didn't expect things to go so far. I sat in silence, barely breathing, already understanding where this was heading, but unwilling to put my suspicions into words even in my own head. Emily got close to one of the dancers. His stage name is Moore, I think. Black guy with tattoos and some story about dancing to pay for medical school, continued Ryan, avoiding my gaze. Jess said they went to a private room and— Enough. I exhaled, raising my hand. I get it. I experienced what people must feel before death. A strange detachment from the body, crystal clarity of thought, and simultaneously complete emotional detachment. I asked questions in a calm, almost clinical tone. Did Jess see everything with her own eyes? Is she sure? Why are you telling me this now? Ryan looked like he'd prefer to be anywhere but here. Jess didn't see what happened in the room, but she heard. And then Emily told her herself, first as a joke, then seriously. Jess has been tormented by this for 2 weeks. Yesterday we argued, and she blurted out that she couldn't live with this secret. We decided you should know. My world was crumbling to the accompaniment of Irish bagpipes from the pub's speakers and the clack of billiard balls from the other end of the hall. At home, I silently watched Emily, how she read to Zoe before bed, how she folded the laundered clothes, how she checked her work email. Every ordinary action now seemed like a performance to me, calculated for an invisible audience. I looked for signs of a double life that I might have missed. New habits, sudden interests, unusual phrases. But she was still the same Emily I had known for 10 years, with whom I had created a family and a home. That was the scariest part. If she had changed, I could have told myself that someone else had changed, not my Emily. But she was herself, and that meant the affair was a choice made by the very woman I knew and loved. I waited 3 days. 3 days that felt like 3 years. After an eternity of unanswered questions and sleepless nights, I finally asked her over dinner after Zoe had fallen asleep. What happened at Jessica's bachelorette party? Emily looked up from her salad, frowning. What do you mean? I told you. Restaurant, then bar, then Jess's apartment, and too much wine. And the strip club? The Platinum Unicorn? Is that also part of the story you forgot to mention? My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I watched her face. Those microseconds when the mask slips and you see real emotions. Shock, fear, calculation, and finally, decision. Mike, it was stupid. We were all drunk, Jess insisted. I didn't think it was important. And the private room with a dancer named Moore? Was that not important either? She turned pale, putting down the fork she had been nervously twirling. In her hands. Who told you? Her voice faltered. Does it matter? Is it true or not? Emily closed her eyes, and a tear rolled from under her lashes. I don't know what to say. It was a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I was drunk. Was a moment of madness. I never wanted to hurt you. What about Zoe? Did you think about her when you decided to destroy our family? Something in her face changed at the mention of our daughter. Softness replaced by something hard, determined. I didn't destroy our family, Mike. It was one terrible evening, one mistake. People recover from these things. If you love me, if you love Zoe and our family, we can overcome this. We talked until dawn. She cried, begged, promised. Never again. It meant nothing. She loves only me. She'll do everything to regain my trust. By morning I was emotionally drained, physically exhausted, and completely confused. I wanted to hate her but couldn't stop loving her. Wanted to leave but couldn't imagine life without seeing Zoe every day. I need time to think, I finally said, as the sun began to filter through the curtains. I have an interview at Google in 3 days in Pittsburgh. This is a chance to change everything, to start with a clean slate with a good salary and stability. I'll fly there, as planned. When I return, we'll make a decision. Emily nodded, her eyes swollen from tears, but her gaze was clear and almost relieved. I'll wait. We'll get through this, Mike. I'll prove to you that this was just a mistake. Pittsburgh greeted me with drizzling rain and coolness. The Google interview was a marathon of technical tasks, system design, and behavioral questions. 8 hours of intense mental work were almost a blessing. They left no room for thoughts about my personal catastrophe. I finished the day feeling I had a good chance at this position. It was a straw of hope in a sea of despair. Perhaps a new city, a new job would help us start over if I decided to give our marriage a second chance. In the hotel room, I checked my cold wallet, not out of distrust, but from the habit of monitoring my investments in times of stress. What I saw made me go cold. The wallet was empty. The bitcoins I had accumulated for years were gone. With trembling hands, I called Emily. The call went to voicemail. I called again. The same. I dialed our home number. No answer. A bad feeling made me check the smart home app. The porch camera showed an empty house. The front door hadn't been opened since morning, after I saw Emily take Zoe to school. I called our neighbor who sometimes looked after Zoe. Mrs. Clark, this is Michael Chen. I can't reach Emily. Have you happened to see her today? Oh, Michael, the elderly woman's voice sounded surprised. Emily stopped by about an hour ago, said you decided to reunite with relatives in California for a while. She picked Zoe up from school early and packed several suitcases. I helped her load them into a taxi. The world around me collapsed for the second time in a week. The next few hours were a blurred nightmare. I tried to call everyone who might know something about Emily and Zoe's whereabouts. I called airlines, train stations, friends. I even tried to contact Jessica, but her phone wasn't answering either. Finally, I called Ryan, the last thread connecting me to my vanished wife. Ryan, Emily is gone. She took Zoe from school and disappeared. The silence on the other end of the line lasted too long. Ryan? I'm sorry, Mike. Jess is gone too. She left a note saying she can't marry me, that she needs to find herself. I felt the puzzle pieces falling into place. Do you know what's going on? Please, if you know anything. Ryan sighed. Jess mentioned that she had plans to leave, that she fell in love with that guy from the club and they want to be together. I thought it was just drunk talk. I didn't know she would take the child. And Jessica. Is she with them? I don't know. Maybe. She always admired Emily, her courage, or whatever she saw in your relationship. I hung up, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife hadn't just cheated on me in a moment of weakness. She had planned an escape. With her lover, stolen my savings, and kidnapped our daughter. It took 3 days and a private detective to find them. Emily, Zoe, and the man known at the strip club as Moore, his real name was Jamal Williams, were spotted at Miami Airport boarding a flight to Costa Rica, a country known for its beauty, liberal immigration laws, and lack of an extradition treaty with the United States. Jessica was indeed with them, as the private detective informed me, but apparently heading to a different country. She was seen buying a ticket for a flight to Bali. The stolen bitcoins were worth about $2.7 million. At that time, enough to start a new life anywhere in the world, especially in a country with a low cost of living. Emily knew my passwords, not because I was careless, but because we were a family and shared everything. I had even shown her how the cold wallet worked in case something happened to me, so she and Zoe would be financially protected. Now, this foresight had turned against me. Lawyers explained my options. I could start an international child abduction case under the Hague Convention, but the process would be long, expensive, and with no guarantee of success. I could file a report about the cryptocurrency theft, but again, proving it was theft and not shared property would be difficult without a prenuptial agreement, especially considering I had given her access myself. You can spend years and a fortune on legal battles, the family law attorney told me, or you can accept the loss and start over. I chose a third path. 6 months have passed since my life fell apart. I got the job at Google, moved to Pittsburgh, and rented a small apartment near the office. I've developed a new habit. Every morning, I video call Zoe. Emily can't completely cut me off from my daughter. That would be too obvious a violation of my paternal rights, which even Costa Rica couldn't ignore. I talk to Zoe about her new school, new friends, how she's learning to surf and speak Spanish. I try not to show my pain when she excitedly tells me about Uncle Mal, who builds sand castles for her on the beach. I look at Emily through the screen during these calls, tanned, with salt-sprayed hair, without the makeup she never forgot to apply in Philadelphia. She looks happier than she ever was with me, and that hurts more than I'm willing to admit. But I have a plan. I haven't told Emily, or a single living soul, that the loss of over $2 million in bitcoins was, exaggerated. It was only part of my crypto portfolio, the part I kept on the wallet Emily had access to. The remaining assets, distributed across several wallets whose existence she was unaware of, are worth several times more. I've filed for a custody of Zoe. Not full custody, but joint. I'm not trying to take my daughter away from her mother. I just want to be part of her life. My legal team is slowly but surely making its way through international legal labyrinths. I have the resources, patience, and determination. In parallel, I'm funding a small cybersecurity startup that helps people who have been victims of cryptocurrency theft. Not all stories end as bitterly as mine. As for Emily and Jamal, from time to time I notice a shadow of worry in her eyes during our video calls. Worry about what will happen when the money runs out, when the initial excitement of their tropical paradise is replaced by routine, when Jamal realizes that a woman who stole millions from her husband could just as easily betray him. I don't wish them ill. I just wait. Patiently, methodically. Qualities that have always made me a good programmer and investor. I know that sooner or later the pendulum will swing the other way. Meanwhile, I'm building a new life, brick by brick, day by day. I've learned to cook the dishes Zoe loves to treat her when she comes to visit. I've set up a room for her in my apartment, hung photos, bought her favorite books. I'm ready whenever she returns. In a way, Emily did me a favor. She gave me the clarity I was lacking, an understanding that the calmest waters often hide the most dangerous currents, that a smile can mask betrayal, and that sometimes you need to lose everything to find yourself. I'm no longer the naive person I was. I've become stronger, smarter, and perhaps a bit more cynical, but I've also become more authentic, a person who knows exactly what he wants and what he's willing to do for it. And if there's one thing I've taken from this experience, it's that real revenge isn't a hot, impulsive reaction but cold, calculated patience. It's the ability to wait for the perfect moment and let the consequences of others' actions unfold naturally. Every morning I wake up with a new purpose. I'm building my career, growing my assets, and preparing for the day when Zoe will be old, enough to understand what happened and make her own choice. And Emily? She'll have to live with what she did, and sometimes that's the heaviest punishment of all. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.